Hello. Thank you for joining me and welcome back here. We're going to revisit the idea of forgiveness here today. Now, we've had a recent video, and there are many, many videos in this series dedicated specifically to the idea of true forgiveness as it's presented here in A Course in Miracles. There are many of these videos because this idea is the practical centerpiece of this course. This is what we do. It's what we do is we forgive. And along the way, it's worth revisiting the idea over and over and over again, because this is how we undo our clinging to the ego and come to recognize that it does not exist. It's one thing to hear it on a video like this. It's one thing to see it in print, and it is another thing entirely to prove it to yourself, to experience that the ego is nothing. It does not exist, and that there is no separation of any kind, which means not only are you not separate from your brother, you are also not separate from God. There is no separation, period. So we come to learn this experientially. It's the best way to do it. It's how it works. Otherwise, we're just reading something in a book. And while it's important, read the course. Yes, do that. Please do that. While that's important, it's not where the true learning actually lies at all. It is in putting these ideas that we read, that we see in a video like this one, into practice. Practical application. Spirituality is practical. That's what it's all about. Because it's very easy to read something and pretend that we understand it and go off and judge every living thing, just as we habitually do. Or we can read it and actually understand it intellectually, but that only gets us so far. So let's spend some time here in the next few minutes talking about why the Holy Spirit's plan for forgiveness works. What is it about our inner teacher's plan for forgiveness that works, that makes it the practical centerpiece of A Course in Miracles? I mean, really, what is that anyway? And let's, for learning purposes, contrast it with the ego's plan, which won't work ever. So we're in chapter 9, section 4 of the text here. This is where the material comes from, and it's very handy because it serves as a primer on true forgiveness as practiced here in A Course in Miracles. And it's a primer that we need, of course. So we've been talking here recently about the atonement, which is the correction of our inner teacher, the correction of the Holy Spirit. It's also his plan for forgiveness. So let's look at it in that context. There is a plan for us, a part that we all have to play in the atonement, in salvation, in awakening. I mean, call it whatever you want to call it. There is a part for us to play, a plan in place for us. And because of our deeply limited idea of who and what we are, we need a guide. We need our inner teacher. We need the Holy Spirit to guide us because of our limited notions of who and what we are. This is not me. It's not you. This is not the Son of God. So when we operate from the premise that it is, we're severely limiting ourselves. We're truncating ourselves and condemning ourselves to littleness and despair, because that inevitably follows when you think you're an individual self-sustaining survival unit, i.e. a human being, an individual. We see ourselves as distinct, separate, cut off from other individuals, and we attack one another. We don't have to physically attack one another, though that often happens. In our own mind, we think that our brother's out to get us, so we construct elaborate defenses. We scheme. We spend almost all of our time on the past or worried about the future. We spend very little time in the present moment, which is the only moment that we actually have. We get so caught up and carried away thinking we're an ego, therefore assuming that everyone else is one too, that we end up in a made up, completely fabricated, made up, pulled out of our, you know what, out of thin air. Really, our economic systems that pit us against one another, one individual against another, one nation state against another. It's artificial. Everything in this world is artificial. The world itself is artificial. It's nothing. So here, when we appear to be here, we need, if we're going to experience the truth of this for ourselves, we're going to need to prove it to ourselves. We're going to need the experience of perfect oneness in order to wake up. Otherwise, we're kind of part in and part out. We feel great one minute, horrible the next. We judge our brother one minute and we forgive him the next minute. So let's learn from the guide that we not only need, but also have at all times. Let's learn how to truly forgive. We have the Holy Spirit as our guide at all times. You could choose, and you may choose not to listen. That is your choice. The Holy Spirit is with you at all times. It is part of your mind that cannot be banished. It can be denied or ignored, but cannot be cast out. Ever. The Holy Spirit is part of our mind. The part that speaks truly. It's known as the voice for God, among other names here in A Course in Miracles. It is to our inner teacher that we appeal for guidance and help. We forgive under the guidance of our inner teacher as he directs us. So what's going on here is we have a choice in the present moment to choose our inner teacher's guidance or to choose the supposed guidance of the ego. We can choose the Holy Spirit as our teacher, or we can choose the ego. Choose wisely. Because it's very clear that when we choose the ego, we don't know what we're doing. It doesn't know what it's doing. The ego doesn't exist, so how can it know what it's doing? It can't. It's circular. We do the same things over and over, expecting a different result. Einstein's definition of insanity. It clearly applies on the spiritual path, doesn't it? We do the same things over and over and over again, and we want the peace of God. We want enlightenment, yet we condemn our brother. We see ourselves as separate from our brother, and we judge him. We judge her. We judge them all. Same behavior, expecting a different result. Of course, we get frustrated. It doesn't work. We would do very well indeed. And that's the invitation to listen to your inner teacher. Yeah. The ego's plan for forgiveness will not work because it invites you to see someone else's stuff as real, to think that your brother really did transgress against you. Your separate brother transgressed against you. Make it real, then overlook it. How is this dangerous? Well, number one, it makes the idea of error and separation real. It says your brother really did harm you. Your brother really is going to actually harm you. So fight back, preemptively strike, or get revenge. Things like that. It makes the error real and then invites you to overlook it. Now, this is the way a lot of people in the world perceive forgiveness, which is why when people run into the idea of true forgiveness in A Course in Miracles, they don't at first understand. Perfectly reasonable. When we've chosen the ego as our guide, it's perfectly clear that we don't understand. So, all the more reason to pay attention to lessons like this, where the Holy Spirit shows you how it really works. So when we make our brother's error real, we end up engaging in very unhelpful behavior. When we forgive under these circumstances, it maintains the separation, because one person is seen as superior, the one who has stooped, or they've deigned to forgive this evil sinner, this horrible transgressor who has harmed us, has wounded us so deeply. Yes, I'll forgive you this time, but if you ever do it again, you little SOB, I'm going to cancel your birthday. Anybody's mother ever do that to them? Just asking. Perhaps you've done this to other people and you recognize it, right? It's common enough in the world. It is. It's quite common, where a hierarchy of sorts is maintained. Here's somebody who has supposedly forgiven, and here's the forgiven, who often feels inferior, less than, like a scum, basically. And this person, if they're like my own mother in this lifetime, wants to hold it over you. Yeah, I experienced that one a lot. That is not true forgiveness. Why? It maintains the sense of separation and maintains that whatever appeared to happen on the screen of life was in fact real. That's the ego's plan. Doesn't work. The Holy Spirit's plan is quite different. It overlooks the error. The error is not real. The Holy Spirit's plan for forgiveness looks past what your brother appeared to do, or appears to be about to do. The Holy Spirit would have you look past that, beyond what appears on the surface. This is surface, pixelated image on your screen. The Holy Spirit would have us look beyond to truth. What else? To the truth of who your brother is, one with you. Perfect oneness. one with God, the Son of God. The Holy Spirit would have you forgive what appeared to happen on the surface. Look beyond it to the truth of who and what your brother really is. This is how we do it. This is how we prove to ourselves that there is no ego. It is nothing. Our brother is one with us. We look beyond the outward appearance to the essence of what he really is. And we do this under the Holy Spirit's guidance. The exact verbiage or thought process you may use will differ at any one given time. It will be as your inner teacher directs you. We look beyond the surface to the essence. We look beyond the form to the essence, the content, oneness, perfect oneness with God. And in so doing, we're extending joy, we're extending love. Forgiveness is a loving act. So it's no surprise that this is how it works. That's why it's the practical centerpiece of this course. It's what we do moment to moment, and we follow the guidance of the Holy Spirit. In following our inner teacher's plan for forgiveness, we look beyond error, which keeps it unreal in our mind. It doesn't make it real. It keeps it unreal. There's no error, there's no transgression, because the separation never occurred. This is, when we speak about atonement, the essence of this principle, the atonement. It's the acknowledgement that the separation never occurred. So we look beyond what appears to be separation to truth, that the separation never occurred. We do this moment to moment through forgiveness of our brother. Forgive your brother. He did not do anything to you. We're forgiving him for what he did not do. No matter what may happen on the surface of life here in the world, in other words, which is nothing more than our thoughts reflected outward. We project our thoughts outward. Boom, planet Earth seems to appear. The more loving thoughts you have, the more loving this spinning ball of rock appears to be, to the point where we're awake in God and we recognize the central teaching of A Course in Miracles: there is no world. So who's ready for that on the first hearing? Maybe you are. If you're not, no worries. You will be one day. How do I know? The separation never took place. Remember, this is the essence of our accepting atonement for ourselves. Acknowledging that there is no separation of any kind, is not now, won't ever be, and there never has been. It is impossible. So we learn under the guidance of our inner teacher to see this moment to moment in the world. Everything that disturbs our peace, anything that is not wholly joyous, is an opportunity for forgiveness. While you're at it, I highly suggest that you forgive yourself for dreaming it. Forgive your brother, yes. Forgive the world, forgive space, time, forgive the ego. Ooh, how about that? Yeah. Again, forgive the ego. Again, forgive the ego. Yes, you see where I'm going with that. Highly beneficial. It is nothing. Look past it to the truth of who your brother is. Look past it to the truth of who you are. Your brother and you are one. One. Not 8 billion, not 2, 1. This is how it works. So clearly, our relationship with our inner teacher is paramount here. Before we wrap up this conversation, a couple of practical words about listening to our inner teacher, because people often ask, and it's a very, very good question. It's a very common question on the spiritual path. How do I know? How do I know it's my inner teacher talking, or not just the ego going like a small barking dog, which is what the ego is. It bleats, it yammers, it never shuts up. But we could choose to ignore it. It's nothing, remember. Try forgiving it when it disturbs your peace, which it's sure to do. So how do you know it's your inner teacher? Well, one very important gauge is how you feel. How does the thought or the intuitive hit or the guidance feel to you? Does it make you angry? That's not your inner teacher. Does it cause you to instantly lash out, judge, and condemn? It's not your inner teacher. Does it make you feel small, ridiculous, and powerless, severely limited? And that's not your inner teacher. Does it make you wholly joyous? Does it ring true? If so, that is your inner teacher. And if your mind is spinning, simply stop and just ask your inner teacher to direct you. He will direct you. All the Holy Spirit needs is just a moment's invitation, just the slightest invitation to rush in. Even a split second will do. You will be guided and directed, and you will know. So how do you learn to pay attention? Well, it's not shocking what I'm about to say. Learning to calm your mind. Oh, yeah. Yes. This is why the practice of meditation is a thing in world spirituality. This right here, this reason is why. This is why calm abiding is a thing. That's why it's the centerpiece of many traditions. That's why mindfulness practice is a thing, so that we may calm our mind. That's when we best hear the guidance of our inner teacher. Otherwise, we're off carried away in our ego clinging, and the ego's constantly yammering and never shuts up. It's why our mind just keeps churning out one random thought after another. And if you really stop and pay attention, a lot of them are deeply judgmental. It's what happens when we identify with the ego. So we learn to cultivate some stillness and some peace. The more we learn to do that, the more room, so to speak, the Holy Spirit has to rush in and guide you. And the easier it is to hear the guidance with a calm mind. Calm. So if you don't consider yourself a calm person, that's absolutely fine. No problem. What you have is the present moment. So I invite you to consider that a successful and highly effective meditation can be as short as one in and out breath. Simply place your awareness on an inhale breath. Then on an exhale. Inhale, exhale, and just let your thoughts go for that one moment. You've just meditated. Now, having done this for one breath, you're cordially invited to do it for a second breath and a third. And you just let your thoughts arise and go as they normally do. We don't try to follow after them or judge them or say, well, that's ridiculous. Why am I thinking that? Yeah, if you think that, just let that one go too. Just let them all go. And if you do this often enough and consistently enough, you may begin to notice that you're opening up some peace in your mind, and things that once bothered the hell out of you may no longer irk you. In fact, you may reach a point where you discover that you barely even notice them at all. Very good. It's with a calm mind that we best hear the guidance of our inner teacher. So along the way, as a practical matter, every single one of us is bound to have questions. Yes, ask your inner teacher. And if you would like to ask questions here in this forum, we've had some very, very good discussions here in the recent past. You're welcome to leave a question here on YouTube, and we can discuss it. Now, if you have not subscribed, I would love to have you. The subscription arrow is right here in the corner of your screen. That's just that arrow, you click on it, join us. We have several videos a week. We're going through the text of A Course in Miracles. And because spirituality is some serious self-inquiry, I mean, it's deep. You deserve nothing less than full awakening, than realizing who you are and your power. So let's not play it small, but be bigger. Yeah. I invite you to set your limitations aside today, even if it's just for a split second. That's huge. So please do that every time you think about it. Forgive the world. Forgive yourself. Forgive your brother. Forgive the Son of God. Forgive, forgive, forgive. Rinse, repeat until such time as we all recognize our perfect oneness. All right. Thank you for joining.